Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, the start of the new week. I am outside Studio Double bright and early to get a particular router bit that I need for this urn. Unfortunately, Studio Double didn't have the router bit that I wanted. I had a look at Total Tools as well, but theirs was really expensive. So I've just gone ahead and ordered it online from Timbercon Express. Hopefully it's going to be here in a few days because I really want to finish up this urn project. And so today I'm going to be working on these 3 inside shelves for the reptile enclosure. So I'm going to cut one to size, making sure that it's perfectly square, right dimensions, everything. And then I'll cut the other 2 to rough size and then use a template bit to cut them to the exact same shape. This worked really well on the side panels and I'm hoping it's going to work well with this. Because I don't have a table saw, it's really hard for me to do big cuts that are all the same size. So I'm lacking that repeatability. But using this pattern bit, if it works as well as it did for the side panels, I'm going to end up with a pretty good result. So we'll see how it goes. All right, headphones in. Let's make this a productive week. All right, that is the first one done. So this will be my pattern for the next 2. So I'll do 2 more sides and then I'll have my slightly oversized piece. Never mind, it's already on the router. Next up, I need to cut the tenons. Came out weird. Next, I need to cut the tenons into these shelves. So it'll just be a very short 5mm tenon, and that will fit into a slot on the side panels. Before that, I just want to tell a quick story about something that happened yesterday. I was running this board through my thicknesser yesterday. There's the 3 pieces. I've since cut off this piece. This is the bit that I want to focus on. I was running the board through like this. It's a piece of timber that is still very green, so it's quite soft. And I was running it through and my little boy came past on his bike. He was in the workshop with me and he was standing here while I was feeding this board through. And as he did that, I thought to myself, bad, because that's, if anything's going to come out, that's the line of the projectiles. But I thought to myself, it'll never happen. I mean, what are the chances? It'll never happen. I've never seen something shoot out my thicknesser before. What are the chances? He then moved on. I took the board out, rotated it again, and I was standing here and I was talking to him and I was gesturing with my hand. And as I did that, now at this point he's over there. This piece shot out of the thicknesser, actually connecting my finger on the way. So, of all the places, it actually took me out. And if he was standing there when that had happened, it would have clocked him in the face. Now this isn't a particularly big piece and it's not particularly heavy, but it was enough to, I don't know if it's bruised my finger, but it was sore. But had it got him in the face, in the eye, it actually, I shudder to think what could have happened. The reason I bring it up, I am a huge believer in talking about near misses. I think they are great learning experiences. And I think as a community, it's great for all of us to hear this. Not from a pointing fingers at you going, you're a moron for doing that. I mean, we can have a laugh about it. But at the end of the day, hearing stories like that legitimize a lot of the safety precautions that we take. So I am now going to be hyper aware of the fact that that can shoot out projectiles and you need to be careful. You need to make sure you stand out of that line of fire. And now it's not based on something that someone said or something that was in the manual. It's first-hand experience. And so for you may have never experienced this, but now I can tell you it does happen. It can happen. And that's why we need to keep these stories going and these conversations going, because they keep that present in our mind at all times. All right, I finished marking out on the side panels, the two side panels, they're side by side, the three different grooves that are going to run across to accept the tenons on the shelves. And now I've reached the point where I have to get this right. There's no room for errors, which can then be corrected by the next step. So those tenons, I cut them to a rough size, but that's fine because those tenons only have to match these grooves. So these grooves are where it has to be perfect because there's not a next step in this chain that can correct this. So this is where it becomes very tense. I'm breaking out the pipe clamps for this. I haven't used these since I got back from Tassie almost a year ago. If you don't have pipe clamps, get yourself some. They are the way to go. I mean, yes, obviously things like Bessey parallel clamps are going to be great, but I reckon bang for buck, that's where pipe clamps come in. And you grab yourself some pipe and you have a clamp. That's what's so nice. So I've got those connectors for the ends, and these are the pipes that I've got. At any time, I can just go get a different size pipe. That is 55. All right, quick adjustments. And it's time to do this. All right, well, I've started, so I'm committed. This is it. This is where it's gonna be. This is when I think I'm not cut out for this. I don't have the nuts. I can't handle the stress. I've already run into my first issue. You can see the track running here. How it's just gone up to there. And I noticed that the fence was slipping as I was pushing through. But that's fine. I can fix this. Instead of this being, or instead of the next cut being over here, I'm just going to move it to this side. It does mean that this side of the enclosure is going to be a tiny bit smaller, but you know, we're talking about 5 mil, so that'll be right. Because of where my bench is located, and this is such a big project, I'm having to set up clamps and duck around them and then squeeze through gaps, and it's making my very empty workshop feel very full. I have a maximum limit on my projects, 2.2, I won't go bigger than that. So the original drawing that this client sent me that he wanted done was, I think it was 2300 height wise, and I said to him, if we bring it down to 2100, I'm in. My ceiling in places, especially on that side of the shop, is about 2100 millimeters, or 2.1 meters. So while I could do projects taller than that, it just makes logistics and moving it around just a nightmare. I imagine this is going to be a shorter than normal episode because yesterday I was man down. I had either gastro or just a stomach bug, and so I managed to do about 3 cuts in the entire day, and it was essentially just a completely wasted day, which burned so much when I've got 3 half days in a week. To just lose one, yeah, that was awful. I remember in my old job, I would call in, take the day off, and either sit on the couch or lie in bed and relax and actually use the sick day for its intended purpose. Whereas this time around, screw that. I was doing everything I could to get out of bed and just work through the sickness because that commission downstairs isn't going to build itself. All right, so where I got to yesterday, these grooves, I've finished cutting these. So these are the 2 side panels and there's their mirroring grooves. So that's for each one of the 3 shelves. Today's job is to, on each outer edge, I'm gonna make a small 9mm groove, which will allow for the back panel to sit inset. And then I've also got to do another groove along the top and bottom edge for the top and bottom panel to sit in. So a lot more routing today. I've discovered a bit of an issue with something. It's a mistake on my part, but I'm able to solve it. So basically what's happened is with these panels, I sanded them where the joins were. I try to sand the joins flush. What that's meant is I haven't sanded the panels evenly across the from one end to the back. So in this direction, the panel is exaggeratedly doing that. So now with this shelf, when I've cut that on a straight line, you can see how the shoulder of that tenon now has gaps. And of course that's going to happen because this shoulder is straight and the side panel is in and out. So that doesn't look good. That's completely unacceptable. I can't use that. However, ironically, the side without a shoulder looks fine. So to get around the issue, I just make the bottom side of the shelf the top side. So now when you look at it, there's a very fine gap along that join, but that will just be filled with glue. And from that perspective, it looks great. So when you come out here, again, you can see that gap, but I don't mind that being on the bottom. I think that's okay that it's on the bottom. Again, that will be filled with glue, so it won't be too bad, won't be too noticeable. And because it's on the underside, I'm okay. However, this is still as I say, it's a mess up on my part. I should have seen that coming. I mean, I had a feeling it was going to happen, but I didn't think it was going to be that noticeable. So going forward, what I need to do, if I ever need to do wide panel sanding like this, I take the panels up to Studio Doubled up the road and put it through a wide belt sander to flatten it. Doing it by hand, yeah, you're going to run into this issue. The router bit that I was only expecting next week arrived early. I hope. Yes, this is it. All right, that's in there. This is a Torquata router bit. I bought this from TimberCon. This is a cove cutting bit, and this is going to allow me to do an undercut for the feet of the urn. It feels like a really well-made bit. All right, the side panels are all done. So there's a slot at the back there. That's for the back panel. There's the 1, 2, 3 shelves. And at both ends, I've done. This is for the top and bottom panel. All I need to do now is go around and square off these rounded corners from the router, similar to that. And then both these are done. This is a really big milestone because this is essentially all of the joinery for this main enclosure body. From here, it's mostly just glue up. If you're wondering why I'm doing this dry fit, it's because every 2 weeks I send the client a few photos of the progress. So this is the first one where he's going to get to see the side panels and the shelves in place. Right, I think that's it for today and the week. Unfortunately, everything else is going to be a relatively long job, and I have 20 more minutes before I have to go fetch my daughter. I've filled some spots with epoxy here. Now that these are no longer the bottom of the shelf, they are now the top, so I've just cleaned them up a little bit. That's just going to make them look a bit nicer. I've done a bit of thicknessing on this piece of red cedar, which will become the feet that router bit is used for. And I think that's about it. So now I'll go upstairs. I'm going to send a couple emails to these two clients just to show, as I say, the progress of what I've done with this reptile enclosure. I'll send the urn clients an email just to say that the part that I've needed has now arrived. So next week, I should be able to complete it, and let them know that this weekend Dan's coming to collect the top of the urn to do the carving. So I'll give him that update as well. And that'll be my week in the shop.